Marco was 35 when his life changed drastically. He had always been a man dedicated to work, with a visceral passion for pastry making, so much so that he opened a small shop in the heart of a picturesque village. That pastry shop was not just a business, but the fruit of years of sacrifices, dreams, and hopes. Every morning he woke up early, opened the door of the shop, and the smell of freshly baked pastries welcomed him like a hug. The clinking of cups moving between the tables created a subtle melody that accompanied the beginning of each day. Before continuing, subscribe to our channel and activate the bell. Every detail inside the shop was taken care of with attention. The warm light that illuminated the windows, the soft music in the background, and even the arrangement of the tables, everything spoke of the dedication and love that Marco put into his work. He was a perfectionist, always careful to ensure that every customer felt at home, that every dessert served was a small masterpiece. And every day, like a ritual, his wife Georgia came to visit him. Georgia always came in the afternoon, after work, sat near the large window overlooking the village square, and ordered her usual apple pie accompanied by a cup of tea. Marco watched her from behind the counter while she, immersed in her thoughts, leafed through a book or answered some messages on her phone. It was a ritual that gave stability to their relationship, a routine that, for years, had kept them together. Even in moments of silence, there had always been a sense of intimacy between them, something that didn't require words. But lately, Marco had noticed a change. That silence that had once been comforting had become increasingly heavy, almost oppressive. Georgia was distant. Even when she was there, sitting at the table by the window, she seemed absent. He asked her how she was, but her answers were brief, almost mechanical. "Everything's fine," she would say, never elaborating. Marco sensed that something was wrong, but he tried to ignore the feeling. He was too focused on the pastry shop, on the bills to pay and the customers to serve, to stop and face the truth. One evening, however, everything changed. Georgia entered the pastry shop later than usual. She looked tired, and for a moment Marco thought she had just had a difficult day at work. But there was something different in the way she avoided his gaze. After a few moments of silence, Georgia looked at him and said in a firm voice, "Marco, we need to talk." Those words hit him like a bolt of lightning. He felt his heart racing and his head filling with questions. He tried to stay calm, thinking it was just a routine discussion, a matter to be resolved, but it wasn't. "I'm leaving," Georgia said without hesitation. "I met someone and I decided to be with him. I'm tired of this life." Her voice was calm, almost cold, as if she were talking about something irrelevant. Marco was speechless. The world around him seemed to stop. Every noise in the pastry shop vanished in an instant. He tried to stammer a few words, to ask for explanations, but Georgia didn't give him time. "There's nothing between us anymore, Marco. We've been living like strangers for months. You don't notice anything. I can't go on like this." Every word she said was like a stab. Marco desperately searched for something to say, something that could stop her, but he found nothing. Georgia left the bakery without looking back, and Marco remained there, motionless, surrounded by the silence that now seemed suffocating. The days that followed were difficult. He continued to run the bakery as if nothing had changed, but inside he felt like he had collapsed. Every dessert he made, every smile he offered to customers was empty, lifeless. It was as if the world around him had become a faded replica of what it had been. The nights were even harder. He would return to a cold, desolate apartment that had been still all day and sit on the couch, staring at the ceiling, unable to sleep. Images of Georgia with the other man tormented him. He felt lost, betrayed, and didn't know how to move forward. One day, while serving coffee to a regular customer, the customer looked at him and said, "Marco, you look like a man who has lost everything." Those simple but direct words struck him deeply. He didn't know how to respond, but those words continued to echo in his head for days. She was right. Marco had not only lost Georgia, he had lost himself, his passion for life, his love for work. He was no longer the man who had built the pastry shop with such enthusiasm. He had become a shadow, trapped in a cycle of failure and pain. One night, while he was sitting on the couch, something changed. He couldn't go on like this. He had to find a way to get back on his feet. The next morning, he woke up with a new determination. He had to do something, anything, to change his life. He began to think about how he could transform his bakery. He began experimenting with new recipes, new flavors, trying to create something unique that would attract customers and renew the shop. Every day he worked late, driven by a new enthusiasm. To his great surprise, customers began to return. Intrigued by the novelties, they appreciated Marco's new creations. With each passing day, he felt more confident, stronger. He was slowly finding his way again, rediscovering the pleasure of what he did. Then, one day, incredibly, Georgia returned. She entered the pastry shop with a different expression. The cold confidence that had hurt him months before was gone. Now she seemed insecure, lost. Her eyes wandered around the place, observing the changes, the new customers filling the room. Marco saw her and felt a strange calm. There was no more anger or resentment, only a deep awareness. Their story belonged to the past. Georgia tried to speak, but Marco stopped her with a serene smile. "Are you here for a coffee or something else?" he asked, keeping his tone calm. Georgia lowered her gaze, visibly embarrassed. "Maybe we can talk. I've been thinking a lot," she said with a trembling voice. But Marco knew there was nothing more to say. His journey had already begun, and there was no more room for the past. "I've already started over without you. There's nothing to talk about," he told her calmly. Georgia remained silent, unable to react. She hadn't expected that answer. She turned and left the pastry shop, this time for good. Marco watched her go and felt no pain. Instead, he felt a lightness he hadn't felt in a long time. His life had moved on. His bakery was rising again, and he with it. Georgia had been just a chapter in his life, but now his future was elsewhere. Every morning he opened the shop with a new smile, knowing that the future was full of possibilities. He no longer needed to prove anything to anyone, not even to himself. His revenge was not made of grand gestures or cruel words, but of a new life, which continued to thrive without her. Did you like this story? Leave a comment below. Thanks for watching the video till the end, and see you next story.